And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. We're going to go straight to the Treasury Live, where we find the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the Treasury in his maiden budget, which happens tomorrow. He's literally working on the number, crunching the numbers, if you will. Ukur Yattani is at the Treasury Live. Waziri, good to see you. Thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy crunching those numbers, but clarify for me, if you will, sir. 2.7 trillion shilling budget. 1/3 of it is going to service debt. That doesn't leave a lot more to play with, does it, Waziri?
Jeff, thank you very much. And really an opportunity for me to interact with the Kenyans through this platform. Tomorrow is a big day for us. We are presenting a budget against a depressed economy as a result of COVID. There are also a number of other challenges, including locust and the flood. And it's going to be a very different budget because the assumptions that we made earlier in the year are totally different. We didn't have COVID, the onset of COVID-19 pandemic by February. Now, the budget policy statement we presented to the National Assembly is quite different now. We've been forced to revise our figures. We've been forced to revise our projection. The business environment has changed. The revenue has gone down. The attendant expenditures are increasing to manage and mitigate and continue supporting the health sector and also cushioning the economy. The combination of all this gives us very little space because at the moment, we have to get money. And part of your question is that what we are doing is that based on the revenue projections and our expenditure demand, we look at the budget deficit. We have a close to 800 billion budget deficit. This is not very different from the previous years. How we have done is that we have reprioritized and rationalized quite a number of expenditures, including some of the projects and the Big Four, so that now the bigger part of it we direct to expenditures that's going to give Kenyans immediate relief, including enhancing liquidity in the economy, cushioning the businesses, and as we most of the time also are supporting the vulnerable segment in our society by additional cash transfers. The fact that we're borrowing, and I'm not sure if there's any country that has developed without borrowing. If you look at the indicators all over the world, a case example of country like Japan has borrowed up to 278% of their GDP, while in the US it's 103%. A country like Angola is 111%, while our borrowing is about 57% of GDP. So we are quite sustainable. And Kenya has never defaulted on any loan. So what we've done and plan to do in this financial year is to replace expensive loans with concessional ones. That's why for the last few weeks we've been quite excited about the opportunities we got from IMF and World Bank. We've got over 200 billion Kenyan shilling at more or less, for the World Bank we got at a 1.5% of interest rate, while IMF 78 billion at no interest rate with long concessional repayment period. So these are things that we are looking at. What you call a loan, that we are keen and we've been working on a process of fiscal consolidation by making sure that we become master of our own destiny, by ensuring that, we raise our own enough source revenue, manage and contain expenditures, mainly recurrent expenditures that some have not been adding a lot of value, so that we have limited borrowing space that we have. We do it reasonably.
Okay, Waziri, let me ask you a question.
Replacing commercial loans with concessional loans.
Waziri, let me jump in there because you mentioned something that reminded me of the time during the post-election violence 12, 13 years ago, when the economy was at 7.1% and rising, and those numbers, 7.1, flipped themselves during the post-election violence to 1.7. That's how far we fell. You are dealing with floods earlier this year, locusts earlier this year, and now COVID. That's a triple whammy. How are we going to recover from this, Waziri? Is it going to be possible anytime soon?
Well, Jeff, the examples are very clear. During the time of the current president, when he was the finance minister here, he initiated a stimulus package that found money trickling to every corner of this country. And the outcome has been a success. Money was created, investments were created, jobs were created, opportunities were given the locals, and the dispersal of the resources was able to turn around the economy from more or less a negative growth to highly, a very impressive figure. We intend to do the same. The last 3 years has been quite good. The economy has been growing between 7 and 6.1. This year, we had a projection of 6.1% of growth. But unfortunately, now with the onset of COVID, we've been forced to revise this figure downwards to 2.5%. And unless we have a firm and deliberate injection in the economy, there's possibility the economy can even go into recession. To avoid this, part of the budget that we'll be presenting to the National Assembly tomorrow is that there is an elaborate, defined in stimulus package that cuts across every sector, that will put money in the pockets of the people at the various localities, making sure that our people have something to do, making sure that, the local economies are supported by creating that chain reaction all day from the farmer to the market. The money in the pocket that will enable, will give people sufficient disposable income to sustain the local economy. That's the route we want to go. And there are many areas. We have identified 8 thematic areas. We are coming up with unique Kazi Mtaani program where our youth and, the able-bodied person will get an opportunity to work in the, the informal settlement by working for themselves, clearing drainages, taking care of the environment, doing various civil work, and making sure that they positively contribute. And then the government will have an opportunity to pay them, which will support the local economy. Additionally, we are also looking at the sector of health by creating additional stimulus in the form of employment to manage and contain the adverse effects of COVID, employing over 5,500 health workers, but to be deployed at the lower level. Additionally, we're also looking at coming up with, enabling the local enterprises, to enable the local carpenters to make beds that the government now will be buying from them and equip a hospital.
Okay.
We're also looking at the educational sector.
Yeah.
Particularly, we are going to put about 10,000 teachers on internship basis for 1 year, where they will be distributed across the country, will be giving complementary services to the existing system. These are many others. And we want to create further injection in the economy by having the economy liquid, facilitating payment of the pending bills, VAT refund, and sustaining, cash flow at those levels and giving more opportunities to the SMEs to do better. Okay,
let me jump in there, Waziri, because you mentioned about the jobs we're going to create. But let's not forget, there's 1.7 million Kenyans who are out of work today. A lot of Kenyans are looking at you right now, watching you live, and they're looking to you for hope. What do you tell people out there? What do you tell Kenyans who want to get back to work, who want to drive this economy just like the rest of us, but they're at home, they're out of work, they're broke, they're angry, and they're hungry?
Jeff, I think it's really important for us to understand where we are coming from. This is a pandemic like no other. The effects not only on Kenyan economy, but all over the globe. Many countries are even more affected than our country because our economy is quite resilient because it's quite diversified. If you look at agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, the financial sector, we are doing extremely well. And if you look like other in situations where their countries are dependent on only one segment of the economy, it can be disastrous. But that's where we are. Of course, the initial shock has set people, in every direction. There are a number of possible, industries that might have closed. But Kenyans are quite resilient. The digital economy is picking up, and, industries are now finding ways to adjust to the situation. And it's on that basis that early at the start of this pandemic, that we gave the government to forego a revenue of about 172 billion to reduce the VAT from 16 to 14%, income tax from 30 to 25%, and many Kenyans were also given relief And the net sum of all these is to enable industries to continue performing, and also generally the workforce to be sustained at that level. I think my message is that economy will definitely open in the course of time. We are going to have appropriate protocols to enable businesses to come back. And we are telling whoever is there that this is a problem that's going to pass. We must look for ways to adjust to them and ensure that the livelihood is not lost.
All right.
You have seen now, particularly in the industry, like in the textile industry, people have become so creative. The production of the PPEs and the face mask and all these is now becoming an opportunity for employment. And along all these, I am confident that the stimulus package that we are actually going to roll out is going to create more jobs and more opportunities to Kenyans.
All right. Cabinet Secretary, we'll let you get back to your work. I know you're crunching the numbers and burning the midnight oil. Good luck in your maiden budget tomorrow, sir. Thank you for your time. That's Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yattani there, still crunching the numbers tomorrow.